Medical conference. That is what she called it. That is what you call sleeping with a stranger now, I guess. Let me guess, too. Did you play doctor while you were at it? My name is Daniel Cooper, and for a long time I believed I was married to a faithful nurse. I thought she was the kind of woman who helped people for a living and volunteered at our local church when she had the time. Turns out I was only half right. She was a nurse, all right. The faithful part was the lie. It all started with a suitcase. My wife, Lauren, was packing for what she said was a medical conference in Chicago. 3 days of continuing education credits and professional networking. That was how she sold it. Sounded respectable. Sounded like the kind of thing a good husband should support, because it showed commitment to her career and concern for patient care. I was carrying her a cup of coffee when I noticed something that stopped me cold. Inside the open suitcase, folded nice and neat next to her nursing scrubs, was a nun's habit. Black fabric, white trim, the whole deal. Right beside that was a 12-pack of condoms, still sealed inside a pharmacy bag. I just stood there staring for a good half-minute. My brain was trying to make sense of it, like an old computer trying to run new software it was never built for. A nun outfit, a nurse uniform, a bulk supply of protection, and a medical conference. Either Lauren had found some very strange professional interests, or she was lying straight to my face. "Honey," I called out, keeping my voice calm the way I learned to do after 17 years of marriage. "What is going on with the Halloween costume?" She came out of the bathroom with a toothbrush in her mouth and froze when she saw where I was looking. She had the same guilty look a kid gets when they get caught with their hand in the cookie jar. "Oh, that?" she said, talking around the toothbrush. "The conference has a themed dinner. Saints and Sinners Night. You know how these events try to make learning fun." She said it with the same confident tone she used when explaining medication side effects to patients. "Saints and sinners," I repeated slowly. "At a medical conference." She nodded while brushing. Foam gathered at the corners of her mouth. "It is about work-life balance. Moral boundaries in healthcare. Very modern approach." "And the condoms?" I asked. She stopped brushing for just a second. I watched her eyes in the mirror. They did that quick math thing, where she decided how much truth to sprinkle into a lie. "Free samples," she said. "A pharmaceutical representative gave them to me to hand out. Safe sex education is part of comprehensive healthcare." I nodded like I was considering it seriously. 12 seems like a lot for 3 days. "It is a big conference," she said quickly. That night, she slept like a baby. The peaceful sleep of someone whose story made perfect sense to them. I did not sleep at all. I lay there counting in my head. 12 condoms. 3 days. Even if this was the strangest training program ever invented, the math did not work unless my wife was planning a very hands-on lesson. The next morning, she kissed my cheek, rolled her suitcase out the door, and promised to call every night. Standard business trip behavior. Except I followed her to the parking garage. I watched her take a small needle out of her purse. She spent 5 minutes carefully poking tiny holes through the condom packages. I am not a medical professional, but I know enough to understand that ruined condoms do not prevent anything. Unless prevention was not the goal. Unless the goal was the opposite. Unless my wife of 17 years was trying to get pregnant by another man. After she drove away, I sat in my car for 20 minutes watching strangers load luggage and wondering how my life had turned into a daytime television drama. Then I went home and did what any reasonable husband would do when faced with proof of a well-planned betrayal. I started digging. Accessing Lauren's phone records was easier than I expected. We shared a family plan, and I handled the bills. Funny how exposed your life becomes when you are not trying to hide anything. Too bad she never thought about that. The most called number over the last 3 months was not the hospital, not her mother, not her nursing friends. It was a local number I did not recognize. I called it. A man picked up on the second ring. "Yeah. Is this Tyler?" I asked. "Depends who wants to know." I could hear power tools in the background. Metal scraping concrete. Sounded like a construction site or a workshop. "This is Daniel Cooper," I said. "I am calling about my wife, Lauren." There was a long pause. Then he said, "Oh, damn." "Oh, damn is right," I said. "And congratulations." "What are you talking about?" "You are going to be a father," I said. "Tell my wife she needs to find a new place to live." I hung up before he could answer. Phase 2 of what I called Operation Full Disclosure started immediately. Lauren had left her laptop open on the kitchen counter. Passwords saved. Email, social media, photo storage, everything wide open. It was almost like she wanted to be caught. Or maybe she had just gotten careless after months of sneaking around. The emails told me everything. Tyler Reynolds. Welding contractor. Divorced. 3 kids. Renting half of a duplex on the west side of town. They had been together for 5 months. And my marriage was already dead. He believed she was already separated from me. She believed he was about to leave his former wife and start a brand new life with her. Turns out both of them were lying to themselves, along with everybody else. They were wrong about plenty, but what really caught my attention were the emails from the last 2 weeks. That is where Lauren laid out her whole plan. She wrote about getting pregnant on purpose, about forcing the situation, about making Tyler understand that they were meant to be together once a baby was involved. Tyler's replies were hesitant, cautious, but not a full rejection. He pushed back just enough to sound responsible, while still leaving the door wide open. He even mentioned he had always wanted more kids. Well, good for them. They were about to receive exactly what they had been asking for. I spent the rest of the morning packing up Lauren's things. All of them. Clothes, shoes, toiletries, books. Her porcelain cat collection she started back in college. The nursing textbooks she swore she might need again someday. Her half of our wedding china. Everything. Anything that proved Lauren Cooper had ever lived in my house went into boxes or heavy garbage bags. I moved through the place with calm efficiency, guided by 17 years of knowing exactly how she liked things sorted and labeled. By noon, the house looked like she had never existed. Loading my pickup truck took 3 trips. Tyler's address was in a part of town I had driven through 100 times without really seeing. Small duplexes, gravel driveways, boats and recreational vehicles parked in yards like lawn furniture. The American dream, trimmed down to fit working-class paychecks. His place had a neat lawn and a welding truck in the driveway that looked sturdy enough to survive the end of the world. I was stacking boxes by the front door when it opened. "Can I help you?" The woman standing there looked about 35. Brown hair, scrubs with cartoon animals printed on them. She had the look of someone who worked hard, raised kids, and still made time for school events. "Are you Mrs. Reynolds?" I asked. "Ex-Mrs. Reynolds," she said. "I am Angela. You must be Daniel Cooper." "I believe you know my wife," I said. "Lauren." Her face shifted through a few emotions before landing on something tired and serious. "Oh, you were the husband." "Was," I said, "as of about 4 hours ago." She looked at the boxes, then at me, then back at the boxes. "Is that all her stuff?" "Everything that matters." "Tyler is not home," she said. "He is at the shop. But he called earlier. Said he needed to talk to me about Lauren. About maybe her staying here for a while." She hesitated. "He mentioned a baby." I nodded. "Lauren has been planning a surprise. Thought you deserved to know before she shows up with luggage and expectations." Angela laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Expectations. That is one word for it." "She poked holes in the condoms," I said. "Did it this morning before she left for her fake business trip. I figured you might want to warn him that his girlfriend is making long-term decisions without his full consent." Angela sat down hard on the front steps like her legs quit on her. "He told me she was separated," she said. "Said you two were already divorcing." "Yesterday morning," I said. "I was a happily married man bringing my wife coffee while she packed for a medical conference." We sat there quietly for a moment. Two people whose lives had been rearranged by lies they did not tell. "So what happens now?" she asked. "Now Lauren gets to explain why she is homeless, pregnant, and looking for a place to stay," I said. "Tyler gets to explain to you why his so-called separated girlfriend just became his very available former girlfriend. And me?" I shrugged. "I get to start over. 17 years older. A lot wiser. And much less trusting." Angela picked up one of the boxes and read the label. "Lauren Cooper." Sounds so normal written down. "She can keep the name," I said. "I am done with it." "What if she comes back?" Angela asked. "What if she says she made a mistake?" I stood and brushed off my jeans. "Your former husband is about to learn his girlfriend lied about her marriage, her birth control, and her living situation. My wife is about to learn that the woman she thought was out of the picture knows everything. And later tonight, when she calls from Chicago to check in on her loyal husband, she will learn that loyal husbands do not stick around for wives trying to have another man's child." "That is not really an answer," she said. "It is," I replied. "Just not the one she wants." I gave Angela my phone number and told her to call if Lauren showed up asking for me. Then I drove back to my house. A house with no trace of the woman I had married. I opened a beer, sat down, and waited. The phone rang at 7:23 in the evening. "Hi, sweetheart," Lauren said. Bright, cheerful, confident. The voice of someone who believed she was still in control. "How was your day?" "Educational," I said. "Very enlightening." "How was the conference?" "Oh, you know how these things are," she said. "Lots of lectures. Lots of networking. The hotel is beautiful. Great view of the lake. Staying busy. Extremely busy. Back-to-back seminars. I am learning so much about advanced patient care methods," she said. "Advanced methods. Sounds intense," I replied. "It really is," she said. "Very hands-on." She laughed at her own joke. Then she said, "But enough about work. What did you do today?" "I cleaned the house," I said. "Did some organizing. Made a few phone calls. All in all, a very productive day." "That is wonderful, sweetheart," she said. "I should go? We have a dinner presentation starting soon. Saints and sinners theme, remember?" "Right," I said. "The moral boundaries thing." "Exactly. Love you." "Love you too, Lauren." And I meant it. That was the worst part of all of it. Even after everything I knew, even after spending the whole day erasing her from my life, I still loved the woman I married 17 years ago. I just did not recognize the woman she had become. The second call came at 11:47 that night. "Daniel." Her voice had changed. Tight. Shaky. Scared. "Yeah," I said. "I just got off the phone with Tyler." "Did you?" I said. "How is Tyler holding up?" "He says you called him," she said. "He says you told him about the baby." "Well," I said, "that felt like news an expecting father should hear directly. Congratulations, by the way. Any idea on a due date? You might want to start counting from this weekend, assuming your plan works." Silence. Then she said, "How did you know?" "Do you mean how did I know about the punctured condoms?" I asked. "Or how did I know you had been sleeping with a welding contractor for 5 months while telling me you were volunteering at church?" "Daniel, I can explain." "I am sure you can," I said. "You have been very creative so far. Medical conferences, saints and sinners dinners, free pharmaceutical samples, impressive imagination. It is not what you think." "It is exactly what I think," I said. "The real question is what you are going to do about it." Another long pause. "What do you mean?" she asked. "I mean," I said, "that Tyler's former wife, Angela, is a very reasonable person. We had a long talk today while I was delivering your belongings to Tyler's place. Turns out she had no idea he was seeing a married woman. Also turns out she is not thrilled about his extracurricular activities." "You delivered my," she stopped. "What do you mean my belongings?" "Everything," I said. "Clothes, books, your grandmother's porcelain cats, your nursing textbooks. Anything that belonged to Lauren Cooper is now sitting on Tyler's front porch, waiting for him to figure out what to do with it." "You cannot do that," she said. "That is my stuff. That is my house." "Was your house," I said. "Was your stuff." Past tense. Present tense. You are a single woman with a suitcase full of costumes and ruined condoms calling your former husband from a hotel room where you are pretending to attend a medical conference. "Former husband?" she said. Did I stutter? I asked. "Tomorrow morning, I am filing for divorce. Adultery. Abandonment. Fraud. My lawyer says it is going to be very straightforward." "Please," she said. "Let me explain. Let me come home. We can fix this." "Home is Tyler's duplex now," I said. "You might want to call him and see if Angela is feeling generous." "This is crazy," she said. "You are being crazy." "I am being thorough," I said. "There is a difference." I could hear her breathing. I pictured her standing in whatever hotel room she actually booked, trying to understand how her perfect plan had collapsed in one day. "What if I am pregnant?" she asked finally. "Then Tyler becomes a father," I said. "You become a single mother. And I become a divorced man who got out just in time. Sounds like everyone gets what they wanted." "That is not what I wanted," she said. "It is," I replied. "You wanted excitement. You wanted passion. You wanted to feel desired by someone who did not know your habits, your flaws, or how boring Tuesday nights can be. You wanted to be someone new, someone more interesting than my wife. Congratulations. Now you get to find out who that person really is." "Daniel," she said, "in 17 years of marriage, you never lied to me. Not once. Not about money. Not about family. Not about feelings. Not about anything important. And in 5 months," I said, "you lied about everything. Where you were going, who you were seeing, what you were doing, what you wanted. You even lied about birth control." I was confused, she said. I did not know what I wanted. You knew you wanted to get pregnant by another man? I said. That seems pretty clear to me. It was not supposed to happen like this. How was it supposed to happen? I asked. Were you going to come home pregnant and call it a miracle? Were you going to leave Tyler and raise his child as mine? Were you going to keep lying until the baby came out looking like a welder instead of an accountant? She said nothing. Or were you just going to keep living two lives until one of them blew up? I thought I could figure it out, she said quietly. Well, I said, now it is figured out. The third call came at 2:43 in the morning. Daniel, she said, I am at Tyler's house. How is that working out for you? I asked. Angela will not let me in, she said. She says Tyler is not here, but his truck is in the driveway. Maybe he is not ready for company, I said. All my stuff is still on the porch, she said. It is starting to rain. Better move it inside, I said. Would not want your costumes getting wet. I do not have anywhere to put it, she said. I do not have anywhere to go. For just a second, I almost felt bad for her. Almost. Then I remembered the needle. The condoms. The 5 months of lies. You could try a hotel, I said. Preferably one hosting a medical conference. Do not be cruel, Daniel. Do not be an unfaithful wife, Lauren. I made a mistake, she said. You made dozens, I said. And the pregnancy thing was not a mistake. That was a plan. A bad plan, but very deliberate. I just wanted to feel wanted again. And now, I said, you know what it feels like to be unwanted. Educational, is it not? That is when she started crying. Not the controlled crying she used when she wanted me to fix something or forgive something. This was different. These were real tears. The kind that come when someone realizes their life has fallen apart in ways they never prepared for. Please, she said, let me come home. Let me explain everything. There is nothing left to explain, I said. You wanted a different life. Now you have one. Congratulations. This is not what I wanted. Then you should have thought about that before you started sabotaging birth control. I ended the call and turned my phone off. The next morning, on my way to work, I drove past Tyler's duplex. Lauren's car was parked on the street. She was sitting on the front step, surrounded by boxes and garbage bags. She looked like a refugee from her own decisions. I did not stop. At lunch, I called Angela. How are things over there? I asked. Complicated, she said. Tyler came home around 1 in the morning. Drunk. He and Lauren had a screaming match on the lawn. Half the neighborhood heard it. And? I asked. He wants nothing to do with her, she said. Says she lied about being separated, lied about birth control, lied about everything. He told her to leave. And she is still there? She is still on my porch like a lost animal, Angela said. I almost feel sorry for her. Do not, I said. She made her choices. What if she really is pregnant? Then she will figure it out, I said. People always do. You are really done with her, Angela said. If your former husband lied to you for 5 months and tried to trap another woman with a pregnancy, I said, would you take him back? Fair point, she said. Lauren wanted to be someone else. Now she was finding out who that person really was. That evening, she showed up at my office. I was finishing paperwork when she knocked. She looked awful. Hair greasy, clothes wrinkled, eyes swollen and red. She looked like someone who had lost control of her life overnight. Can we talk? She asked. We are talking, I said. Have a seat. She sat down slowly, like she was not sure the chair would hold her. I made a mistake, she said. Which one? I asked. The affair? The lies? Or the pregnancy scheme? All of it, she said. I was selfish and stupid, and I destroyed everything good I had. Yes, I said. You did. Can you forgive me? I leaned back and studied her. She looked like the woman I married. Sounded like her too. But she was not her. The woman I married would not have cheated. She would not have lied. She would not have tried to get pregnant by another man. Lauren, I said, do you know what I do for a living? You are a forensic accountant, she said. That is right, I said. I investigate fraud. I deal with liars every day. People lie about money, assets, motives, and intentions. And every day I separate what actually happened from what they want me to believe. She nodded. So when you tell me this was a mistake, I know that is not true, I said. When you say you were confused, I know that is not true. When you say you want to come home, I know that is not true. I am not lying, she said. You spent 5 months planning to get pregnant by another man, I said. That is not confusion. That is strategy. Bad strategy, but intentional. She started crying again. I do not know what I was thinking. You thought you could live two lives, I said. The safety of marriage with me and the excitement of someone new. You thought you could force things to work by bringing a child into it. You thought you were smarter than everyone else. I was wrong, she said. Yes, I said. About everything. So what happens now? She asked. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a manila envelope. Divorce papers, I said. Filed this morning. You can fight them if you want, but given the circumstances, that would not end well for you. She held the envelope like it might detonate. Daniel, please, she said. We can get counseling. We can fix this. No, I said, because I do not trust you anymore. And trust is the whole thing. Every late arrival, every unfamiliar phone call, every trip to the store. I would wonder what you were really doing. She shook her head. It was not about excitement. It was, I said, and you traded 17 years of trust for 5 months of thrill. That is not something counseling fixes. What was it really about? I asked. She took a breath. I felt invisible, she said. Like I was just Daniel's wife, not myself. Like I was fading into our routine, our marriage, our life. Tyler made me feel important. And now, her voice cracked. Now I feel like nothing. For a split second, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But sympathy does not erase betrayal. And understanding does not excuse lies. You were never invisible to me, I said. You were my partner. My best friend. The person I chose to build a life with. If you felt lost, you should have talked to me. If you wanted excitement, we could have found it together. If you wanted to feel important, we could have worked on that. I tried to talk to you, she said. No, I said calmly. You did not. You decided I was the problem and Tyler was the solution. You never gave me a chance to even be part of the conversation. I am sorry, she said. I know you are, I replied. But sorry does not fix this. Sorry does not give me back 17 years of trust. Sorry does not erase the fact that you were willing to let me raise another man's child as my own. She sat there holding the divorce papers, finally understanding the full weight of what she had lost. Where am I supposed to go? She asked quietly. I do not know, I said. That is your problem now. I do not have any money. I do not have anywhere to stay. You have a job. You have friends. You have family. You have a car and a suitcase and all the freedom you said you wanted. I do not want freedom, she said. I want to come home. Home does not want you back. She placed the papers on my desk, stood up, and walked out without another word. I watched from the window as she got into her car and drove away. And for the first time in 3 days, I felt something other than anger. I felt relief. 6 months later, I was sitting in a downtown diner having coffee with Angela Reynolds. How are you adjusting to single life? She asked. Better than I expected, I said. Quieter, but better. Any regrets about the divorce? No, I said. Some regrets about how intense I was at times, maybe. What would you have done differently? I stirred my coffee and thought about it. Maybe I would have been less dramatic. Maybe I would have tried harder to understand her reasons before shutting the door completely. But you still would have divorced her, she said. Absolutely, I said. Trust is not like a broken appliance. You cannot repair it once it is gone. What about Lauren? She asked. Any idea how she is doing? She moved to Seattle, I said. Got a hospital job. Mutual friends say she is not pregnant. Either the plan failed, or Tyler was smarter than she expected. And Tyler? Still welding. Still renting that duplex. Still not interested in complicated women with complicated plans. Angela laughed softly. Smart man. Smart enough, I said. What about you? She asked. Anyone new? I am taking a long break from relationships, I said. Turns out people are more complicated than I thought. That sounds fair. We sat quietly for a moment. Two people who had been collateral damage from someone else's bad decisions, figuring out what came next. Daniel, Angela said finally. Yeah. For what it is worth. I think Lauren was an idiot. Yeah, I said. She was. But she was my idiot for 17 years. I miss that sometimes. The idiot, or the 17 years? Both, I said. The woman I married was smart, funny, kind, and honest. I do not know when she turned into someone who would sabotage birth control and lie about medical conferences. People change, Angela said. Yeah, I said. They do. The hard part is figuring out whether they change for the better or for the worse. I paid for my coffee, walked Angela to her car, and drove home. My house finally felt like a home again instead of a crime scene. I had rearranged the furniture, painted the bedroom, and replaced the wedding photos with pictures of places I wanted to visit someday. The house was quiet, but it was not empty. It was full of possibility instead of lies. And that felt like progress. Sometimes, late at night, I wondered if I had been too harsh. If I could have handled her betrayal with more grace, more forgiveness, more understanding of whatever crisis turned my honest wife into a stranger. Then I remembered the needle, the condoms, the 5 months of carefully planned lies. Grace has limits. Forgiveness has boundaries. And understanding does not always lead to reconciliation. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone who is determined to destroy your life is to let them go build a different one somewhere else. Lauren wanted to be someone new, someone exciting, someone worth lying for. Now she gets to spend the rest of her life finding out who that someone really is. And I got to spend the rest of my life being thankful I did not have to watch the fallout. The final twist came 8 months later, on a Tuesday morning, when Angela called me at work. "Daniel," she said, "you need to know something about Lauren." I closed my eyes. "What now?" "She is back in town," Angela said. "And she is very pregnant." I sank into my office chair. "How pregnant?" "Very," she said. "Like any day now pregnant. And Tyler says the baby is not his. Says the timing does not add up. Says she must have been seeing someone else too." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Of course she was," I said. "Lauren always liked to overachieve." "There is more," Angela said. "She has been calling around town, trying to find someone who will take her in. Apparently Seattle did not work out either." "Let me guess," I said. "She told some new guy she was divorced, got pregnant, and he figured out she was lying about something important." "How did you know?" Angela asked. "Because people do not change," I said. "They just get better at lying to themselves about who they are." "She called me yesterday," Angela said. "Asked if I thought you might take her back now that she learned her lesson." "And what did you tell her?" "I told her that some lessons come too late to matter." "That was the right answer," I said. "She is staying at the motel on Highway 9, Angela added. "Room 247, in case you were curious." "I am not," I said. "I did not think you would be," she said. "But I thought you should know." That evening, driving home from work, I took the long way past the Highway 9 motel. I told myself it was just curiosity, just wanting to see how the story ended. But the truth was, I needed to know that walking away had been the right decision. Lauren's car was parked outside room 247. It looked worn out, tired, just like I imagined she probably was. The curtains were closed, but I could see the blue glow of a television through the fabric. I sat in my truck for 10 minutes with the engine running. 17 years of marriage. 5 months of lies. And now she was alone, pregnant with a child that might belong to any number of men she had deceived along the way. I could have knocked on that door. I could have offered her a place to stay until the baby arrived. I could have tried to rebuild something from the wreckage of what we used to be. But I did not. Because some bridges cannot be rebuilt once they burn. Because some trust cannot be repaired once it is broken. Because when someone finally shows you who they really are, you should believe them. I drove home to my quiet house. My orderly life. My peaceful routine. It was not the life I imagined when I married Lauren 17 years earlier. But it was honest. It was real. It was mine. And for the first time since I saw that needle and those ruined condoms, that was enough. 3 days later, Angela called again. "Lauren gave birth," she said. "A healthy baby girl. The father is still unknown. Paternity test pending." I stayed quiet. "She listed your name on the birth certificate," Angela said carefully. "My lawyer is already handling that," I replied. "I know exactly when Lauren and I last slept together. It was not 9 months ago." "You could ask for a test," she said. "Just to be sure." "I do not need one," I said. "So what happens to the baby?" Angela asked. "That is not my problem," I said. "And Lauren is not my problem either." "You really are done with her," she said. "Some people spend their whole lives trying to figure out who they are," I said. "Lauren spent 5 months showing me exactly who she was. I was smart enough to pay attention." "And who was she?" Angela asked. "Someone who thought lying was easier than telling the truth," I said. "Someone who believed deception was simpler than honesty. Someone who wanted everything without paying the price. And now she gets to learn what that price really is." I hung up the phone and went back to my quiet Tuesday evening. My honest life. My peaceful existence. Somewhere across town, Lauren was learning how to be a single mother with a complicated past and an uncertain future. I did not feel angry. I did not feel sorry. I did not feel anything at all. and I realized that was exactly how it should be. The woman I loved for 17 years ceased to exist the moment she picked up that needle and poked holes in those condoms. What remained was a stranger who shared her face and her name, but not her heart, not her character, not her integrity. I had already mourned the woman I married. I had already grieved that marriage. I had already buried that life. What happened to the stranger after that was none of my business.